The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here he is, Brandon.
And now on the Brandon Peters Show 1, we return you to Brandon Peters and Russell McGee's 60th anniversary of Doctor Who discussion, continuing on with their talk about the Fourth Doctor, played by Tom Baker.
If someone who knew the future pointed out a child to you and told you that that child would grow up totally evil, to be a ruthless dictator who would destroy millions of lives, could you then kill that child?
We're talking about the Daleks, the most evil creatures ever invented. You must destroy them. You must complete your mission for the Time Lords.
Do I have the right? Simply touch one wire against the other, and that's it. The Daleks cease to exist. Hundreds of millions of people, thousands of generations can live without fear, in peace, and never even know the word Dalek.
Then why wait? If it was a disease or some sort of bacteria you were destroying, you wouldn't hesitate.
But if I kill, wipe out a whole intelligent life form, then I become like them.
So now we will move on, everyone, to, let's see,
your favorite Doctor.
My personal favorite, Mr. Thomas. And you know what? The guy who I share a birthday with. So
you know what? You've not told me that before.
Yep, we were both born on January 20th. So that's the
Very
coolest
cool.
thing. My favorite Doctor and I have the same birthday. Also, DeForest Kelley born that day as well. So and David Lynch. So I have a very nerdy to me birthday.
Amazing.
All right, Russell, what is your favorite Tom Baker story?
And there's a story behind this, but The Hand of Fear, my friend, that is my number one.
All right. Wow. This is a stunner. Okay.
Yeah,
Stunned.
But
all right.
Here's why. I guess I'll go into the story, but the story behind why I like the story is, technically speaking, this is the very first story of Doctor Who that I ever saw. I got to see 2 episodes of it, and then for years I didn't know what happened. So talk about cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Because I saw it on the Sci-Fi Channel back in '93 when they were doing the Doctor Who reruns then.
Yeah.
So that was my first introduction to Doctor Who, and really the TV movie is what made me a Whovian, but this was the kicker. That's what got me interested in the first place. And there's a lot of really cool things that are happening here. This is also Sarah's last story. But the idea of there being a silicone life form, which is, again, you talk about science fiction, seeing what other types of life that could be out there in the universe. And then there's just nice reversals throughout, because at the beginning of it, they find this, Sarah finds this hand, and that is what we end up finding out later is actually a prisoner that's been sent off, and not even a prisoner. They tried to destroy him entirely, Eldrad, but Eldrad must live, as Sarah says many times. But the thing is that Eldrad in his planet had been this mad genius and had done a lot for the planet, but then went rogue because they wouldn't accept him as a tyrant. And so Eldrad was sent into space, and they were going to try and destroy him utterly, but because of what Eldrad did to his world, they were all dying there, freezing to death, and they had to destroy the ship early. And in doing so, his hand survives. And Sarah finds it in a rock quarry. And then through a nuclear power plant, Eldrad regenerates. And then the Doctor, not knowing Eldrad's history, takes Eldrad back to his home world. And at first they're going along with Eldrad. They think he's a good guy or she's a good guy, because at first like takes on the form of a female like Sarah, because that's who Eldrad had been in contact with. And then we find out who Eldrad really is.
That was so nice. It's almost as if you wrote the story.
No,
this one.
But I really like this story.
This one gets a bad rap, I think. I've seen this one dogged a lot, and I'm like, I like it. I follow along with it. It cooks good. Like, I like the monster designs in it too. So, yeah, I do like this one. Did not make my conversation for this, but so my favorite Doctor, my favorite story from my favorite. Do you want to guess?
I don't know. I'm gonna get. Go ahead.
Seeds of Doom.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, now you need to explain, because
all right,
that's not what I expected.
All right. This comes from my favorite season of classic Doctor Who, season 13. I could have picked like all stories from this. I did not. But Seeds of Doom, I think, is the best structured 6 to 7 part Doctor Who story out there. Because a lot of them struggle to drag, but this script is smart enough to have like kind of a secret 2-parter that leads into a 4-parter that has a setting that can be utilized in such exploratory ways that doesn't feel like you're running around in the same place.
Wait, I know why you like this. It's got a John Carpenter's thing going on. That's why you like this.
It has very much John Carpenter's The Thing. It's got stuff like Alien. I really like this plant concept that it comes. So like they find these like eggs that they police together. So there's always 2 of them. And the Doctor and Sarah get sent to this Antarctic place. Yeah, it's The Thing, but the thing doesn't come for a while. It's like this pod opens. It's got invasion of the body. It's all sorts of stuff that comes like popular after this episode. Right. But there's this guy who like protects plants, and he's a nutbag about it. He's got an assassin that he sends out, and this guy's a goon character. Tom Baker's good with his quips there. Sarah Jane's pretty smart in this one. Not that she isn't always, but there's some good Sarah Jane stuff in here. There's death in it. And there's like, they go for it big with a giant kaiju-esque plant monster at the end. And the villain's really good. I like, what's his name? God, we're bad with names today, but he's an actor you've seen in a lot of other things. He was in TV a lot. He was in a lot of Michael Caine 70s movies. I think he's in The Italian Job and Get Carter. Just well performed, like just got like a very much your Tobias Vaughn type actor type part. But this one just, oh man, this one moves for me. I'm really into the Antarctica stuff. And then like when they get back to the mansion's really fun. There's a lot of betrayal going on. There's some weird stuff where the guy just like, villain's just like, watch me play the organ right now in my place. So it's got some of that camp fun, but I love the season. I love Season of Doom. It's the capper to season 13. But you don't have to see anything leading up to it. Season 12 tries to serialize some of these. It's interesting. Some of these seasons will try serialize stuff that go across the whole season. Season 13 doesn't, which I think season 13, it's my favorite. It invents a lot of stuff, and it stands alone by being itself. Like there's no returning monsters or anything like that. The only thing returning is like unit stuff. But this season had Terror of the Zygons, also written by the Seeds of Doom guy.
Yep.
But every story in this one was like bam, bam. But I even like Android Invasion. I know that's a
no. I'm there with you. It's not on my list, but I do love the Android Invasion.
But I like that. So I know people think they did Benton and in bad, but I'm like, they're fake, whatever. It doesn't.
Yeah, no, right.
But I love season 13. That's like my favorite one. This season 12, 13, 14 era. Good stuff here.
Hinchcliffe, love Hinchcliffe, man.
Hinchcliffe, that's my bread and butter. He hits the horror, he hits the hard sci-fi stuff, and it's just Baker. I love he's just so otherworldly to me. Like he really feels like this alien guy. To me, just do it like it's great, and he's got companions. I like Sarah Jane's wonderful.
Harry
Sullivan. Like Leela Romana. Like Romana might be is maybe my favorite companion of Tom Baker.
Which Romana though?
Either. Flip a coin.
Okay,
I like them both.
Fair.
I like them both. I like the idea of Romana and what she stands for and how she's just capable. And when she goes on a side quest, it's not to get kidnapped. It's not to be like she's doing stuff on her own.
Thing.
And she's never asking like, why are we doing like Romana is it's very much the Doctor's show, but it's like only 75% his show when Romana's there, if that makes sense. So, So what is your number 2?
Gonna be a fan favorite, Genesis of the Daleks, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Yep. For good reason.
Yep. What can you say about this? I mean, as you said earlier, this is where the Doctor's given the moral conundrum of should he actually destroy the Daleks at their origin, at their genesis, with Davros creating them here with the Calids and the Thals, and we're back in time, and we really see what happened as far as the wars that devastated Skaro and led to what creates the Daleks, because it is so bad that they have resorted to, in some cases, like they have machine guns, and like, so there's a mixture of like lasers and machine guns and things like that, but it's showing that like society is starting to collapse in on itself because the war has been going on for that long. And there's the mutants because of the radiation sickness and everything that's happened from their war. And it's really, really solid. And Sarah has to go on her own side quest here. And she gets separated from the Doctor, and she is forced to actually help as far as with loading a rocket that's going to be shot to try and destroy the other side. And in doing so, she's having to load this radioactive material that is slowly essentially killing her. So again, it's just, there's a lot of moral conflict that's going on here. And as you pointed out, that question that Tom has to deal with of, do I have the right? I mean, that clip alone is like one of the probably most iconic that people know from the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And that like, I believe it was Ark in Space got like huge ratings back when it came in. This solidified when people stayed that they were gonna stay. That one. It's not my top 3 this time.
No, really?
It's there. I mean, it's like it's like in the conversation. Like I can't, like, I hate dropping these to like 3, but that's the fun of this, right? Because the next time around I'll be like, oh yeah, Genesis of the Daleks, right? So I have and here comes my Monster Kid stuff. Brain of Morbius I had at number 2 here because it is Frankenstein, and it is witches.
Yeah,
and
Karn, the sisterhood of Karn, right?
Yep. And if you know me, you know what I like to do.
Yeah,
I like to mess with mythology and canon, and I love what it surprises with here. The moment when Morbius and the Doctor are interlinked, and they're going through the past iterations, and it goes down to Hartnell and keeps going.
Oh, yeah.
I love because what a shock! Like, oh, okay,
more.
And just for people who complain about nowadays when things do that, like, look, they were doing that back then. Old Terry Dix. I know it's Robin Bland that wrote this one. That is Terrence Dix and Bob Holmes. and they're coming up with this idea. They're wanting to screw with things. Like, why not? Like, I love shaking it up. And this immediately got never referenced again until the Timeless Child. But just an idea. But I like the Frankenstein's monster story, how it's incorporated in a science fiction way. The idea, there's this mythology that there's this other Time Lord that he tried to pull a Napoleon or something, kind of. There's a sisterhood of Karn keeping alive life in this flame, and the Doctor kind of comes over there like an atheist to them almost. Like, he's like, that flame, all you gotta do is like, because they've been believing in this flame for so long, but they actually do have telepathic powers and stuff and transport. This is one of many, I think, in a row here, or a good number where like Sarah Jane, she goes blind in this one, and then she's under control in Mask of Mandragora, and then she goes under control in Hand of Fear. So like in 3 out of 4 stories for her, something will happen like that. But I like the setting in this one, the storm on the planet, and the Doctor thinking there's like a purpose for him to be there, and Morbius thinking there's a purpose for him to be there, to brain in a jar. Just classic kind of borderline a camp, probably camp to some people, but I think it skirts the line perfectly. But yeah, I like Brandon Morbius. This is one I went back to, and I was like, I wasn't gonna have it, and then I was like, watched it. I was like, yeah, I probably maybe should. I'm high on it right now, so I put it as my number 2.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then my number 3, which will probably be
Are we not even gonna match any of these? This is gonna be crazy.
Is Douglas Adams, but not the one most people are gonna think of. Shada, my friend. Shada
that was in
3.
not my number 3, but this story is awesome. And I yes.
Yeah, no, and this is another one where it's interesting because of the strike that happened for years and years was never completed, and then because of the animation, we finally got a fully realized story. But like, I like the ideas that are here. We have another Time Lord again, that's outside of the system and has been living on his own. And we find out that there's a lot more to like some of the ideas that he had prior to him retiring. And there's this whole prison that he was supposed to be in. And the Doctor has this alien that is actually searching the universe to try and find this Time Lord to steal his mind. And so this alien goes to Skagra, right? Goes to the prison ship for Shada, and actually steals all the minds of all the prisoners there. And then from there, he's searching the universe for I can't even Professor Chronotis, right? Right. And again, sorry, like, and see, you're gonna see, because I dig this story. I ended up bringing Chris Parsons back actually in a story that I wrote with Sarah Jane. Yeah. But
gotcha.
No, this is up there for me.
Yep, absolutely.
I love Douglas Adams. So
yeah, no arguments here on Shada. I'm glad we can watch it episodic. That's my best thing.
Agreed.
Because that movie length thing was long to sit down and watch. For some reason I could watch it all 6 episodes in a row like that because I have breaks, I guess. But just there's a thing with like, it was intended for television, so the pacing doesn't equal movie over 2-hour movie length.
Right.
So it's hard. But when you do episodic and you see it, I don't know, it's a mental game with me, I guess. So my third one is Robots of Death. Because now this is one. So there's this guy named Chris Boucher who came into Doctor Who, wrote 3 bangers, and then dropped the mic and walked off to Blake 7. But he did Face of Evil, which that one I have like gotten really like high on in the last few years. I think it's like Really, really good. It's very Zardoz. Very like I like that, but I like that. And then he wrote Image of Fendal for the next season. So he just came in boom, boom, out. So Robots of Death is a perfect one, like I talked about, where we had Tomb of the Cybermen, where you could just, I don't care if you might not even enjoy Doctor Who, but you'll like this story. It's a murder mystery set on a crawler thing that's it's inspired by Dune. And it's got great sets, great costume design. The robots are cool. It's like a unique take on a robot look, and they're creepy. It's the Doctor and Leela's first adventure out together after picking her up in Face of Evil. And this has good twists, good turns. You think you know what's going on. It's got a great cast. It's got Pamela Salem, who is wonderful. And she would be Moneypenny in Never Say Never Again, James Bond. And she showed up in Blake 7 around this time, or a couple years later, too. But this one just worked. Like, this is a perfect like encapsulation of like here's a story, and it's one of the things I like too. I always like about Doctor Who, because I feel like he's the best at interrupting another science fiction movie going on. You know, like this happens without him, certain things. But like the thing I love about Doctor Who is he like interrupts like a television show that was already happening or a movie that was already happening, and he's just here like, okay, well, where am I gonna? Okay, well, like because you can kind of. This is one of those stories where you can kind of see the story without the Doctor even, but it's fun to add the Doctor to the mix with that. So that's one of the things that Doctor Who can do. But
it's also got a very Isaac Asimov take as far as with the robots too.
Yeah, and I like the model
the
work
that are there.
Yeah, the model work's really good on this too. But yeah, this one's so cool, and this one works, and it's such a limited space. But they make it work, and they make it fun for all 4 episodes. And this is, like I said, pluck down in, see if you like Doctor Who. Oh, that was cool. Well, now you can go on and do this one. So I always have really liked Robots of Death. It's been one of my favorites, but this,
it's another fan favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely a fan favorite. There's so many, like I struggled with here with Tom Baker because I would want to mention all. Most everything. But Doctor Who Magazine says City of Death is number 1, which, you know what? That's great.
Douglas Adams. Yep.
So, yeah. But, so this list is not a fake, though. So, number 2, Genesis of the Daleks. Robots of Death showed up number 4. Seeds of Doom showed up number 6. The Brain of Morbius was number 11. Hand of Fear was 19. So, which that 19 out of 41, so halfway, a little above the halfway point. Underworld was the least liked story.
Where'd Shada show up?
And Shada, did they? I don't think they counted it.
Well, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, they did not count it at all. So, yeah. Doesn't look like so there we go. One I like, it's really low. I'm big on Full Circle. That was number 25. I'm like, that should be higher. I like the East Space trilogy though. East
Space is I'm there.
Season 18 from East Space to the end. Oof, good stuff. Good stuff. So now we're gonna get younger here as we move on to, let's see here. Younger, hipper, to Peter Davison, the 5th Doctor era.
When did you last have the pleasure of smelling a flower, watching a sunset, eating a well-prepared meal?
These things are irrelevant.
For some people, small, beautiful events is what life is all about.
Great in the 80s.
There we go. This was kind of easy for me, Peter Davison. Was it easy for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start. My number 1. Caves of Androzani. I'm sure that appeared in your list. No,
it does not. But that was number 4 for me.
Okay. Yeah, this is one of the greatest regeneration stories of all time. Sheraz Jek is one of the coolest designed villains. He's very Phantom of the Opera-esque. You get him in one way, then you get to see his face. it's the doctor. It's the Fifth Doctor and Perry. This is like she was introduced in the story before, and then she comes in this one, and her and Davison have some pretty good chemistry. In the story, there's this battle going on, and there's like people playing different sides. The lighting's really good, and like the crazy thing is the production design in this is phenomenal. Some of the best Doctor Who, and then it goes to the twin dilemma the next week. Like, what? This is the same television show, and it's just production wise, like, yeah, is what happens. But the Doctor's his heroics to save the day at the end. He's got a haunting regeneration ache into the second Doctor. Where he's struggling, things don't seem nice, and it ends with the Master, like a vision of the Master being like, "Die, Doctor, die!" Yep. And then Colin Baker popping up and not being like, "Ha ha, I'm the Doctor now." He's like, "You're like, wait, who's this guy? Like, why did he say that? Why did like he didn't have a look of like wonder in his face?" But this one, yeah, it's got the guy, or no, was he in this one too? I can't remember. Never mind. But yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff going on, which makes intricate interplays while you have a limited space. Good monsters, and they keep making, like, you knew. So I wasn't watching this when it aired, but I imagine if you were watching it aired, you knew Peter Davison was going, and they have every cliffhanger like, is this where he dies? Is this where he dies? So I thought that's pretty good about this one. And then you finally get the celery makes sense at the end where it turns purple. But yeah, this is cool. This is a great story. I like this one a lot.
The self-sacrifice that he does there at the end is really cool.
Which makes sense because he's the heroic Doctor. He's the Doctor. Yeah. He's the first person to play him as like a hero. Like, he's not as goofy and weird as the three before, or like serious, like super serious to, like, he's very much like a knight as a Doctor or something like that.
Agreed.
Yeah. So what is your first then?
My first for the Fifth Doctor is Earthshock, man.
My number 2. This story rocks.
We have Adric that's held over from the Fourth Doctor. And it does. We get the Cybermen back. We're all on a ship, and it gets under siege by the Cybermen. And then there's the whole thing as far as it ties in also with the extinction of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
With Adric's death. So yeah.
Again, good production design here too. Like, it looks like a lot of times lights are a problem in Doctor Who being too bright, but this one gets it perfect.
Yeah, it's very moody, and this is another one where they did something different with the end credits as far as because of Adric passing. So, not to give too much spoiler, but like it's a rock solid story, and this is like, we talked about Sarah Kingdom earlier as far as a companion passing. This is where you get the first true companion that was a long time on the show that passes on the actual series. So it had a huge impact, and that's why for me this was the number 1 for the Fifth Doctor.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very high on this one as well. Might be my favorite Cybermen story. Like, it's just that good. The surprise of them, the way it's played out, just how ruthless they are, and yeah, I like the 80s Cybermen design. That might be my favorite Cybermen design. Is the 80s Cybermen, especially like Earthshock here. But
also just the suspense as far as how, like you're saying that as far as them menacing, like they just kept closing in until they were locked in on the bridge and they had no way out. And it was just really cool. Yeah.
So cool. What's your next one?
Next one for 5 is Planet of Fire.
Oh, okay. Hello, Perry.
Hello, Perry, and also a good master story, and I love what goes on as far as with Thurlow, and we have we have the conclusion with Thurlow as far as what's happening with him, and there's even
and Chameleon.
Thank you. And I wanted to actually verify that with you because like I didn't get a chance to rewatch this. But yeah, and Chameleon was an interesting idea that JNT put out there. And like it was kind of like the whole thing with Canine, but like I liked Chameleon. I liked what they were trying to do with this as an idea as far as a robot that could be influenced by somebody else's will, and then because of that, Chameleon ends up betraying the Doctor a couple times, and this is one of those instances where he's taken over by the Master. And it's also interesting because there's the question that the Doctor puts to Turlough as far as that, you know, he really is like upset with Turlough and thinks that he has betrayed him. And so there's that whole dynamic that's happening as far as, and Turlough always had an interesting relationship with the Doctor all along with the Black Guardian. So this is just another way that they deal with that in the story. And it's just a good send off for him as far as that goes.
Right. Yep. I agree. Yeah, Planet Fire is a fun story. Actually, they made a movie edition cut that actually they added some stuff to it because they felt it was big enough to lend itself to that whole ordeal. And this one actually, like Planet Fire, was thinking like Doctor Who with a unique setting. Like this one actually works for that. It feels like different than majority of the stories told in Doctor Who. So you went with Turlough's End. I have Turlough's Beginning as my number 3 with Modron Undead, which had I not watched it recently, I don't know. So I'm pretty sure, like you said with Hand of Fear, I can't recall, but I'm pretty sure Modron Undead's the first Doctor Who. An episode of it would have been the first I saw on PBS when I was a kid in the 90s, because just I remember open grass field, like 2 women companion. And like I'm pretty sure it was Modron Undead. Pretty sure. Can't confirm. But I like this story. It's got one of those awesome concepts narratively where we think we're doing things and we find out people are in different times with stuff, which is really neat. Turlough is an interesting concept of the Black Guardian showing up and being like, kill the Doctor or you're gonna die. One of the two. You know, and so Turlough's set to be this intruder on the TARDIS that's unknowing. So there's the concept of getting through the mission, but also this guy's trying to kill the Doctor. Yeah. And this one had like is this the one with the best Nyssa outfit that she ever wore, where they got her costume? Like, it's not the poofy thing. It's not the strawberry shortcake, but blue thing. It's the,
man, I like the poofy thing.
So yeah, this one, and it's got the concept of Modron, and then these people trying to steal the regenerations from the Doctor, wanting them. Just really cool. Davison's great in this one. I really liked his performance in it. But this one actually works. Brigadier's back. The Brigadier,
yes.
And they do some interesting stuff with him, and I like the concept, the way they work the 2 parallel times, and the writing's just clever in this one. For me, I like that. It knocked off Kinda, which would have been number 3 because I'm a big Kinda fan. But it knocked off Kinda at number 3 because I recently revisited this and I was like, you know what? I think Modron's going to be number 3 for me. So, what is number 3 for you?
Number 3, I told you there was a multi-Doctor story. The 5 Doctors, my friends.
Of course.
I couldn't help it. Like it's again, you get a lot of fun with the Time Lords on Gallifrey. And even what goes on with Barusa and everything as far as the president and what he's trying to do, and you not knowing at first that he's actually the dastardly villain of the story. And there's a cool little red herring with the Master there too that they play around with. And then like the whole concept of the Death Zone and the games that used to go on in the dark times with the Time Lords is really interesting. And then you get all the classic doctors back. Well, obviously we didn't have Bill Hartnell here, and you had Richard Herdnell in his place, but like they did a really good job as far as bringing him in as a replacement, and he did a great job as the first Doctor. We still had Susan here. You had Jamie and Zoe make a cameo. Sarah has a big integral part with the third Doctor.
Liz Shaw and
oh, you're right.
What's his name?
Mike Yates, right?
Yates, yeah, it was Yates.
Yeah. Also, and there's that wonderful little bit with the Master and the first Doctor of It's as Easy as Pie when they get into Yep. Yeah,
Herdnell, he like looks good. He's a little too tall, but he works, and he doesn't look like he's trying to be Bill Hartnell. He looks like he's trying to be the part, and he's enjoying himself, clearly.
Very much in a similar fashion that David Bradley is now playing the role.
Yes. This is so much fun. And it's funny to see the pairings, because they're not like Tom Baker not being a part of this changes everything. Because you get Sarah Jane with the third Doctor, you get the Brigadier with the second Doctor. Like who got the short end of the stick because Tom Baker decides not to come? Like, oh, if Tom Baker was in this, I have a bigger part. Probably Jamie. I don't know. But it's just it's interesting how they do that. But it's also fun to see, like, they decide if they're gonna pair the first Doctor and the fifth Doctor together the most in this. So you get Susan and Tegan and Turlough, and that was a smart move, because it's like, well, it's not the actual guy. So if there's not, if the ego has to come in, it could be Davison to take over, because Davison said they didn't all get together in the end because the production crew was fearing all the egos in one room with all the Doctors. So
interesting.
But they weave in. The third Doctor has his Cyberman story in this one. He sees them, at least, he sees them from afar, so it counts more so than Carnival of Monsters when it has a little cameo.
It's not even from afar, Brandon, because when they get to the what is it, the Guardian, where he's throwing the weapons, they're right there, Sarah and
that's right. They do get surrounded. Yep.
So the Cybermen are killed by that. I can't even remember what that thing's called, but you get what I'm saying.
The second Doctor still remains the only one to be around the Yeti.
Yep.
So he gets to keep that to himself, as well as the Brigadier. But this is just a mishmash, a lot of fun. This could have been a disaster, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I think the three Doctors is fun as well. So
I think this is a stronger story. Honestly.
Oh, this is way stronger than the three Doctors, but I like three Doctors is fun, but this is nailed it. Like they needed what would happen later with Day of the Doctor. There's a lot riding here, and they managed to pull it off.
Yeah,
somehow, some way. So cool. The five Doctors. Good to have it here. So Doctor Who magazine says that we are mainly right, because the Caves of Androzani finishes first, Earthshock second, third is the five Doctors. Modern Undead finished eighth. And though Kinda was number 4. Wow, Kinda was high.
Oh, Kinda is yeah.
Wow, that's normally I see that's a Planet of Fire was 14. Kinda, I normally see that as a love it or hate it one with people, but fair enough. All right, so now we're gonna get a bit more flashy here. We're gonna take it on a little bit more boisterous with Doctor number 6, Colin Baker.
But look at it this way: planets come and go, stars perish. Matter disperses, coalesces, reforms into other patterns, other worlds. Nothing can be eternal.
And let's dive in to the this
I'm going to let you kick it off,
devices. All right.
sir, because I
obvious.
know that you are a big Colin Baker fan here.
I do like. I came around like I started out like this guy, but like I really enjoy his first season 22. I like him and Perry. I don't mind
Perry,
the trial.
yeah.
Perry's one of my faves, and more than just the looks. I like the botany aspect, and it comes into play with a lot. And I like her. I enjoy when the doctor says crap and her eye rolls, and then her giving it back to him sometimes too. It feels like there's a built relationship that when you go from season 22 and you start at the mysterious planet, there's an earned like, okay, we've been through this together. That feels really good there. My first one, Colin Baker, is Vengeance on Varos. This is one of my favorite Doctor Who stories. I think it's like a great social commentary. It's your number 3?
My number 3.
Great. It's a dark story, but a lot of season 22 is just trying to push it to new boundaries where I feel like at this point they're with the show. They're like, all right, our audience is kind of grown up, right? So we're going to try putting it there. And yeah, this one talks about reality television kind of. And this is in that like 85, 84. And they're talking about this stuff. There's a lot of like who controls things. Just get Syl, who's a wicked villain, just but that's good that you feel that way with that. And yeah,
literally a slug.
Sean Connery's son is here. But yeah, this is cool. These people vote. Their person in power, they vote, and he has to like withstand like devastate, like is it electrical current or something like that.
Right.
And yeah, there's a lot of like politics being played, like behind closed doors things, betrayals. This is a good, they talk about Doctor Who just running through corridors. These are awesome corridors they go through. The
Agreed.
Doctor accidentally kills a man in this. But I think this is an awesome story. I really enjoy Vengeance of Eros quite a bit. So that's my number 1. So that was your number 3. What's your number 1?
Well, I was going to say that one of the things I agree with you, the social commentary in Vengeance on Varos, like not just what you talked about as far as reality TV, the whole idea of the prison system. And like you said this earlier, but I want to make sure we say it again. JNT was really pushing things at the time and making comments about what was going on. And I love that he was doing that. It's kind of like very much a Rod Serling thing as far as making sure that he's commenting on what's happening in the world. And so personally, I think that's also why this story holds up really well.
Right.
And so like, even just the ideas as far as the tortures and everything, even the Doctor gets tortured, where you're talking about one of those halls. He literally is going through this hall and they have it where like it's a mind game and he thinks he's going through a desert.
Yes.
And so these images of a desert around him, and he like to the point where he's like feeling like he's dying from dehydration, and it's just intense.
Yeah.
It's a great little story. So I agree with you there.
And there's also some genetic stuff that they do with like Perry, like chesting and
right, where she almost turns into a bird, right?
Bird, yeah. So there's some interesting stuff with that as well. Like there's a lot of ideas here, and John Nathan Turner, like he gets a lot of crap, but like he was trying to push boundaries. He was changing things up. And some people and a lot of things at the time was not popular. So anything like I'm saying, like this Colin Baker era, but I will argue, while people look at hindsight with it in a different way, his ratings for this season were up to par. They weren't going above, but they were up to par with Peter Davison's final season's ratings. So he managed to hold afloat. It's not until they cancel the show hiatus and then it doesn't come back for a while, and you already as a public know the BBC doesn't have confidence in it, that it comes back with poor ratings. Had they followed up quickly or business as usual, I don't know what the next season holds, but it wasn't immediate here that people revolted on or anything. But I do know, I understand it was at the time, but I think reflection, and a lot of people talk. We were just at Doctoberfest, and someone was talking about, like, I was told it wasn't good, but I was like watching, I'm like, I'm kind of enjoying this. I'm like, yeah, because it's really, we're past the point of impact, so.
And sorry, gonna go a little slight tangent, but like the other thing is, since then, the stories that were slated to actually be produced have actually then now been produced as audio stories. And one of the ones that I absolutely adore is A Nightmare Fair, where they bring back the Celestial Toymaker, and we're gonna have Toymaker back here coming up with Neil Patrick Harris. But like, I so wish we would have been able to see that one, because like they did it where it was set in a video arcade, and again, just using modern like things that were happening in the world and commenting on video games and everything, and how that was being pervasive.
It reminds me of the Never Say Never Again scene where James Bond and Largo are playing that video game. It kind of reminds me of, and also in that season, the Ice Warriors were coming back as well.
Yep.
Because they decided with Colin Baker, they wanted to launch him like Tom Baker, where his first season would have a lot of monsters that you remembered, because Tom Baker's first season had Centaurans, Daleks, and Cybermen.
Right.
And Colin Baker has Centaurans, Daleks, Cybermen, and the Master. So that's what they did. So, okay. So what did we go with your...
No, not yet. Okay. Sorry, as I said, tangent there.
Yes.
My number one is Mark of the Ronnie.
That is my number two. This story has gone up for me over the years with it. It's really good.
No, again, this is another one with a rogue Time Lord. But the thing that I like about the Ronnie that is completely different from the Master or any other Time Lord that we've seen that is a renegade is she's purely scientific. It has nothing to do with the Doctor, the Master, and it's only because the Doctor is getting in her way that she actually then starts to pay attention to him. So
there's a great line in this one where she turns someone into a tree and be like, "Well, you mad? They're gonna live longer than a human," because it's, to her, it's like, "Oh, you want they're gonna live longer like that." But
you also, like what you just said as far as the tree, it's also her continuing to deal with like genetics, and what she keeps on doing with experiments there is always interesting. And here it's also it's got a historical element, so that's again, I like history. So like you've got all these great minds where they're supposed to be coming in together, and like, again, if she had destroyed all of them, it would have just devastated what we know as far as history today, and we wouldn't probably have evolved as a society as we have without these great minds coming together. So it was just a really interesting story that I very much enjoyed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I will sing its praise. I think we only got it a pair of times, but Pip and Jane Baker, probably them plus Colin Baker, was the best dialogue to Doctor stuff that they had for the era. Like, they were the perfect people to write Colin Baker Doctor dialogue. Like, absolutely. And I like the Ronnie's plan of bringing brilliant minds together to wipe them out. The dinosaur thing, like, this is the best Ronnie story in live action that we've had. And the setting works, costuming for the Doctor and Perry, just changing into period outfits, and I really like this one. It's grown for me in esteem a lot, because it started out like and then the more I watch it, I'm like, okay, this one really holds up good. This has got good dialogue, good plot, good science. Good stuff. So my number 3 is I get to have my nerd cake and eat it too. It's Attack of the Cybermen, which is full of Easter eggs for Doctor Who, based off a story. A lot of follow-ups to a story that didn't exist at the time. Tomb of the Cybermen was missing when this was written, and expecting people to know stuff. It starts where Doctor Who began, but I like even the weird ice monster things, whatever, the women, I think they're cool. They're creepy, weird. I like where we go here. I like just everything's weird. It's a dark story. It's a brutal end for the guy from Resurrection of the Daleks. I can't remember his name. And just wandering around. I feel like this one has a lot of free space. You know, they're out in the street searching. They're in the sewers. There's that the slavery area of the planet where those two guys are turning into Cybermen. There's the place where the crystal ladies are. There's some sort of like corridor. There's a bridge of like a Cyberman ship. There's like a lot of places they're going around, not just like single locales. This one feels free, unlike a lot of Doctor Who stuff of this era, of a lot of eras. But I just, I'm big on Attack of the Cybermen. But yeah, all three of mine come from season 22. Mysterious Planet was very close, but what was your?
I cheated. I'm freely gonna admit I cheated.
Oh, you went the whole Trial of the Time Lord.
I did because hey, I'm like, War Games is 10 episodes. Trial of the Time Lord is 14. So I mean, seriously, it is one complete story, especially with the Valyard. So like, I'm sorry for me, and like it's always been released as a box set. So I'm like, okay, no, Trial of the Time Lord.
All right.
And I absolutely also like the Valyard, my friend, like that idea of the
I'm
Doctor.
surprised they've never resurrected it.
Again, in audio, yes, but yes. Yeah. Having the Valyard where it's a rogue version of the Doctor later in his life, his last regeneration, well, at that time, that has come back to steal his earlier regenerations from his past self. It's just a fun little bit of adventuring.
Yep, absolutely. And I think The Ultimate Foe is such a cool story because The Ultimate Foe is Colin Baker's mind robber inferno, one of those trippy ones. Because when they get in that, all that stuff is just weird when he comes up from the mud, like everything just is kind of off-putting. When they go to that town with the carnival and there's a shoemaker guy that the Valyards disguised as. It's all really weird, unsettling, and I love that stuff about it. And that's Pip and Jane. Well, it's Bob Holmes for the first half and Pip and Jane Baker for the second half. And there's that whole trick where they make Mel think the Doctor's really on trial or something like that.
Yeah,
that's cool stuff. I have come to enjoy both Colin Baker seasons for their various things. And I was just talking to somebody about like I like that Trial of the Time Lord box set they put out for the Blu-ray because of all the Doctor Who Blu-ray sets they put out, that one totally encapsulates an attitude and a vibe of when that came out and how it was between the bonus features, the interviews, and like the talk show stuff that they show on that one. It just feels like you really feel of that era and what was going on there. So, and how Doctor Who fit. So that's why I really like that box set. So, the Doctor Who magazine disagrees with us. They say Revelation of the Daleks is the best one.
Of course they do.
They have Vengeance on Varos at number 2.
Okay, so we're good.
They are a Russell McGee friendly. They put Trial of the Time Lord as itself as number 4. 5, Mark of the Rani. 6, Attack of the Cybermen. So what we're not mentioning here is 2 Doctors at number 3, which I think is very high for that one. And
I agree.
7, Time Lash, and 8, Twin Dilemma.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the 2 Doctors. It's fun to see Pat back, but like that story is
and I love Sontarans, but that is not a good Sontaran story.
No, and again, it's one of those ones where, hey, we're going to Spain, so they got to go on vacation and have fun, but like I don't think it really holds up as a story.
No. All right. Oh, now we're gonna get time for Colin Baker to be replaced
without a regeneration.
Sylvester McCoy, the 7th Doctor.
But there are 3 rules. 1, I'm in charge.
Whatever you say, Professor.
2, I'm not the professor, I'm the doctor.
Whatever you want.
And the 3rd, Well, I'll think up the third by the time we get back to Perryvale.
Yeah.
A new era begins. So, right. And this will go for 3 seasons. So here we are, the final Doctor of the classic era that we're going to talk about, because I know the 8th Doctor has been swept in with the first 7.
Yep.
Typically nowadays. So, number 1 for you, Russell, Doctor number 7.
Number 1, sir, is Silver Nemesis, the 25th anniversary episode, or episodes. And that, to me, the 7th Doctor and everything that Andrew Cartmel did here is really interesting, because he worked really hard to build up this air of a mystery about the Doctor, back, trying to tie it back to almost the way Hartnell was. So like there's a lot here with Silver Nemesis, with him having sent off the Nemesis device, and trying to prevent that from being a bigger problem. And then we get the Cybermen back again. And also, I'm just going to point this out because like I noticed it as I made my list. I have a lot of Cybermen stories.
Yeah, that's what we
list.
have talked to Cybermen a lot. And I'm like, do you prefer Cybermen or Daleks? Which is the...
I think I actually prefer Cybermen over Daleks.
I'm a Cyberman person myself too, yeah.
And like, it's not that I dislike the Daleks. I love Nick Briggs. Nick, if you hear this, it's not
Nick,
a
if
harsh
you are
on
listening
you.
to this, thank you, Nick.
Yeah, not harshing on you in any way, Nick. Yep. Like, love the Daleks, but like, I think what it is for me is that the Cybermen are a corruption of us human beings, and the fact that it's almost that whole zombie thing of like, it's what could go absolutely wrong, and like the worst case possible as far as if science went wrong. And that's unnerving, that's terrifying, and that there's still that human element to the Cybermen, and that's what makes me like more unnerved by them than anything else.
Right, I agree.
So Silver Nemesis, and it also has some great moments for Ace in here. She is on par, and both Sophie and Sylvester have a lot to do throughout the story. And as I said, this was the 25th anniversary, so it's just a solid story.
Yeah. My number 1 is Curse of Fenric. This is
that is my 3.
So this is a hell of a story here. Including like vampire like things that, like I said, mentioned earlier, something would lead into like this. They have explanations for why, Dracula and stuff through this story. This is a lot of cool, like creepy, BBC public access looking stuff from the 80s, like with the women with the long nails, the two friends of Ace. This story dives into a place where there's an enemy from the Doctor's past.
Sorry, I you went there.
I went there. So there's a thing with the Doctor's past from like that has come back to finish a game of chess or whatever with them. And it could destroy the world. There's Ace's back, like secretly in here too.
Love Ace's backstory,
which they were built. This season 26 is all like there's stuff in season 25, but 26 really, it's home with Ace. And then who is this Doctor? So because in a previous story he's Merlin, potentially with things, and this one just hits the creep zone right. There's a story about military like decoding and stuff, and then like setups for like they were going to kill these Russian soldiers basically by leading them into where they thought a decoding machine was. There's a guy doing an archaeological thing under a church. There's a crisis of faith with there is like a lot of just rich thematic stuff. If there's one thing about the 7th Doctor that always gets said, it's that his stories are overloaded and there's not enough time to explore everything that Cartmel wants in every story. There's a lot going on, but he's making it a richer show, and he is running so the new series could walk. That's basically what he's doing. Ace is going through stuff, and then without Ace, we don't have Rose. Like, that's pretty much what we have there. And then making the Doctor a mystery again. I always think that's part of the thing that gets overlooked. Is like, he should be somewhat of a mystery, with things. And just adding more to it rather than, okay, here's our heroes, they're going to save the day, and we give all the depth to the guest stars for the serial. They're like, no, who are these people we keep going with? Let's give them stuff. Let's give Ace more than just like, oh, well, I'll hit the buttons, or what's this, or why would they, they're giving
or
them,
just screaming.
Yeah, or just screaming, or being kidnapped. And some of them we love seeing do that way. Some of them can do it like Sarah Jane, where she's able to put equal. Romana just on paper is able to be competent, but there's a lot of them that, if they don't have an edge, then what? Like, Leela has an edge because she's a fighter. She can do the brute work that the Doctor, we don't expect out of the Doctor. She's got, some of them are cleverly written, but some of them just Victoria, I like Deborah Watling and all that stuff, but
and back to your point about Rose, without Ace and that moment and it's not even on my list, but that moment with Sophie beating up the Dalek with a bat, that surprised audiences at the time. That showed that she was a capable character, not just somebody that was going to go and scream.
Right.
And it brought something else to the show that had not been there before.
Yeah. And that is my number 2, Remembrance of the Daleks.
Well, it's like we transitioned right into that.
Featuring Jeffrey, the butler from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, as a bartender in this. This is a cool story. More background on the Doctor, more devious Doctor plot here, where he makes a decision. You're like, whoa, crap. Davros. It's the conclusion of the trilogy that starts with, I believe, Destiny of the Daleks, right? Or it's more than a trilogy. It's a 4-part thing. It's like each so once, from season 7, each Doctor got one story to keep pulling this along. It's got a lot of Doctor Who's history in it. Like, it's season 25. They're like, we are capitalizing on an anniversary here.
They go to the end of the lane.
They go
literally. Back
there. The Daleks show they can go upstairs. They fight that age-old question of, oh, you can't even go up the stairs with them, and that freaked people out back then. Ace with the bat. This was Ace's first story as a full-fledged companion. And this kicked off rock solid. Season 25 and season 26 were huge bounce backs, I feel. And it was but they were both I think there were some solid ratings for this season because there was anniversary year interest, but this was probably the too much too late, or too little, too much too late, or something like that with Doctor Who, because it felt like it was really rejuvenating in a way it hadn't, and was going into a place that hadn't before, but and it was done. People were done with it. So what is your number 2?
My number 2, my friend, is a weird one, but this is where I like the 7th Doctor in particular. The Greatest Show in the Galaxy.
It's a fun one.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's all over the place. The stuff with the circus as actually more than a circus, and they're being literally kind of like Fenric. There's a whole thing of pawns, and the Doctor having to perform for the aliens here, the age-old aliens that we don't really ever get a full story of, and the history that is there between the Doctor and them. And then there's a werewolf, and I love werewolves, so we've got a werewolf, man. So I again, it's just another thing about this show that I'm like, yep, okay, I love this story. And more recently, that character's actually come back in audio, and they've fleshed that out, done some more stuff with her. So again, another plug for Big Finish, but hey, I work there, so what can I say?
That's their new catchphrase. No, I work there. What can I say?
No. I love Big
Mhm.
Finish. I love the work that we do. I love that at this point, we actually have doubled the amount of stories as the actual TV show, which is kind of ridiculous since Big Finish has only been around for 27 years. So it's amazing how much content that they've actually produced.
Very true. Very true.
So greatest show.
Greatest show. Here's the one where I was just like, screw it. I think about this one all the time, talking about it, and at Oktoberfest, I felt comforted enough to put Ghostlight as my number 3 because
Ghostlight's high up there for me, man.
I like this one. It is, like I said, if you listen to me when I said Mind Robber, you shouldn't be surprised when I say I enjoy Ghostlight because while I agree this one crammed a lot, but now we have a work print edition that lets this one breathe a bit more. And I like that. This is the best use of BBC sets, like in Doctor Who, because they're right at home. There's a lot of weird, like trying to figure out what's going on here. Things, some cool metaphysical alien stuff, more Ace backstory. They're back in the place she burned before she, left and got in trouble. It is a fun little weird kind of whodunit, kind of haunted house. It's got a vibe to it that I am totally digging. And it's got that kind of like Clue type feel to it at times. And and there's the weird room in the basement type thing. And I dig this one quite a bit. And I'm not ashamed to say so, even though I've seen it given shit. I've been given shit for it. I like Ghostlight.
It was 4 for me, man. So I'm right there with you. It almost made my top 3. So
gotcha.
The other thing that I like about it is how they deal with evolution as an idea.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot as you said, there's a lot of different ideas happening here, and I think it's executed well.
Gotcha. All right, your last one
was Curse of Fenric.
Oh, man. Fenric. All right. So
yeah.
All right. So we will go to Doctor Who magazine stories. Remembrance is number 1, of course. That always ends up being his number 1. Curse of Fenric, number 2. Number 3 is Survival. Number 4 is Ghostlight. So I guess I was always there, folks. I was always there. So Silver Nemesis ends up number 9 there. And Greatest Show in the Galaxy is 5. So Time in the Rani, rightfully the last place one. Thank you. So. And you can catch the final part of Brandon and Russell's 60th anniversary of Doctor Who celebration tomorrow on the Brandon Peters Show podcast as they conclude their chat discussing the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th Doctors leading into the 14th Doctor anniversary special. That's tomorrow here on the Brandon Peters Show.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.